Welcome to the second half of phase two of the Russian Revolution, the March Revolution. So in the first half of this flipped classroom, you saw how World War I made everything so much worse for Russia, how it led to Nicholas's disastrous decision to go to the front and lead the troops, leaving Alexandra in charge and allowing for the corruption of the government. You saw how Rasputin rose to power, was killed, and then it's time for the next phase of the revolution. So last we left, Nicholas has abdicated the throne, making him officially the last Tsar of Russia, and we have a new government coming in, the provisional government. So let's talk a little bit about what that government looks like. And first and foremost, it's mostly made of moderates. And the most important guy we need to talk about who's in this government is a guy named Alexander Kerensky. And he was made the Socialist Revolutionary Minister of Justice. So Kerensky is a 36-year-old lawyer. His dad had actually been a schoolmaster who, funny coincidence, recommended Lenin for college. He was known to be an excellent emotional speaker, very energetic, however, a little bit vain, and he rose to power when he represented gold miners who were striking in 1905. Now, he is a moderate socialist. He believed in labor causes, and he's a lot similar to many of the people who are in this government. They are moderates and they are Mensheviks. Note that we are not saying Bolsheviks. So this new government has a plan for what they want to do, and it was called the 8-Point Proclamation. And this was basically their guideline for what they wanted to bring to Russia. So remember, one of our big goals was rights. And so the 8-Point Proclamation said, yeah, we want that. We want full civil rights for everyone. So we don't want the oppression that we saw under the Tsar's government. Second, we want amnesty for all political prisoners. So anyone who's been thrown in jail by the Tsar because, hey, the Tsar didn't like what you had to say, we are freeing you from jail. So all of a sudden those jail doors open and many of the Bolsheviks are released from jail. Next, they said, hey, we want equality for all ethnic groups and religions. So we want freedom of religion and we want no more discrimination. So that's, once again, a big goal. And finally, we want to bring in a democratically elected government body. We want to set up a real parliament, which we will call the Constituent Assembly. So, hey, we're moving towards representative government. However, the provisional government will make one major mistake. And there's Kerensky in the picture. And that mistake is that they will continue the war effort. They will not pull out of World War I. And part of the reason for that was that they had the support of the generals. And the generals basically said, hey, now with Nicholas gone, we're good. We can win the war. Do not pull out of the war. And so the provisional government makes the very big mistake of saying, hey, we're going to continue to fight in World War I. So now, Bolsheviks, according to this, you're going to have freedoms. And so they speak up and they say, no way, right from the get-go. Now, Lenin actually has to get back from Switzerland. Because remember that he was hiding because he fled when the Tsar started arresting everybody, and he'd been in Switzerland. And the problem was that he couldn't get home because Germany controlled all transportation between him and Russia. And hey, Germany's at war with Russia. But lucky for Lenin, the German government says, sure, you can go home, and here's safe passage to Finland, and we're just going to put you in the sealed railroad card because we don't want any of your communist ideas getting into Germany. And there you go. Go ahead. Go to Russia. Do what you want, and we're just going to send you there. And there's a big reason for why they do this, which I'll talk about in a second. So Lenin shows up, and he says, hey, I'm going to release my ideas, my plan for Russia, and these are called the April Theses. And these are Lenin's outline for what Russia should have, and this is April of 1917. He releases it. Number one, and this is the reason why the Germans sent him back, is he says, hey, I want to end the war. I will get us out of the war at any cost. And so the Germans sent him to Russia, hoping he'd gain power and get Russia out of the war. Next, he says, hey, I want government ownership of all factories and banks. I need us to go straight to a communist state. We don't want a democratic state. Once again, this isn't surprising because this is a communist idea. He also says he supports rural land reform, trying to win over the peasants, saying, hey, we'll divide up the land and give it to you. And also, we need to actively attempt to start a global revolution. Okay? So basically, I don't support the provisional government. It must be replaced. I believe in all power to the Soviets, and we need communism now. And by the way, we need to spread that communism beyond just Russia. Basically, what Lenin was doing is he was promising the people peace, getting out of the war, land, going to redistribute land, and bread through communism. So what's Kerensky's reaction to this going to be? Well, Kerensky at this time has become the Minister of War, and he decides that it's time to go on one last-ditch effort and an offensive to beat the Germans. And if he can win, this will undercut Bolshevik support. So it becomes the July offensive known as Kerensky's Gamble, and basically it fails. Food shortages get worse, fuel shortages worsen, people take to the streets in Petrograd, and basically we've got some riots going on. And what this does is it allows Kerensky and his government to label the Bolsheviks as traitors and spies. Basically, they say, hey, they were plotting with the Germans. It all been done under Lenin's approval. Remember, the Germans are the ones that got him here. It is all his fault. So basically, he is using the Bolsheviks as a scapegoat, saying they are spies, and blames the failure of the assault completely on them. And so when Kerensky becomes prime minister on July 7th, then he goes after the Bolsheviks. He has their weapons seized so they can't fight back. He disbands the military organization of the Bolsheviks, which was known as the Red Guards. He has their newspapers shut down, so no freedom of the press for the Bolsheviks. And basically this leads to the Bolsheviks being arrested. And so, sorry, Trotsky, you're back in jail. And Lenin has to flee once again. And he escapes to Finland, where he writes his book called State and Revolution. So now we're at the end of the March Revolution. We see a new government, no more Tsar in power. The Tsar has been arrested, but he's no longer in power. But the Bolsheviks, once again, are being targeted. They are being arrested. And we're seeing a government that looks a little bit like the Tsar's government. So we'll see what's going to happen next with Kerensky and the provisional government in class.